Well, good morning and happy Mother's Day, everybody. I brought y'all a little gift. Hang on. I brought a gift because, I don't know, their Easter swag has been on sale. And so I got these little egg-shaped stones. And I'm going to pass these around, look through them. They're cool. They're really cool. And I want you to just take the one that you like the best. Or you can take more than one. I brought a bunch, and a whole bunch of people went out with their moms this morning instead of coming to church. So that's okay. I promise this might make sense to you in a few minutes. Go ahead and grab an egg or two that you want and pass them around. That'd be cool. And while you're doing that, thing that everybody does on Mother's Day Sunday at church, picking out your tiny rock egg, I'm going to read you a beautiful call to worship by my friend and Unitarian Universalist religious educator, Becky Brooks. Becky writes, Mother's Day is complicated, joyful for many, yes, but complicated. It's right there on the calendar, even if your mother has died, even if you've been told yet again that you're still not pregnant, or if you've never been more scared than you are right now because you are pregnant. It's Mother's Day. Even if your own mother's priorities included everything but you, there is going to be a Mother's Day Google Doodle with flowers and pink stuff. Even if you have scars, one you can see or ones that you can't, it's Mother's Day. That cake mix commercial is going to roll out 4 times an hour, even when you can't stop shaking and crying because you can't believe you slapped your little boy today. It's Mother's Day. And we all have to live with that in those silent, breathless moments, because even when the baby dies, it's Mother's Day. And so let's go to church. Let's be a church where we can acknowledge how difficult it is to have this day, right along how joyful this day can be. Let's be a church where we don't pretend there aren't inky depths of space between us, even when we sing. Let's be a church that fills the space between our differences with love. Because even in the most broken places, there is room for love. We can be that church. Isn't that beautiful? I love that. I believe you already are that church village. Now, the second piece I'm going to share before preaching a little bit today, I know we're already going long, but this is really good stuff. It's the words of the world-changing 19th century transcendentalist, poet, abolitionist, Unitarian, Julia Ward Howe, and her first and official Mother's Day proclamation to this nation, written in 1870. It's a cry for peace in the face of wars and rumors of war. It's amazing how prescient and current it feels. How boldly proclaimed. Arise, then, women of this day. Arise, all women who have hearts, whether our baptism be that of water or of tears. Say firmly, we will not have great questions decided by irrelevant agencies. Our husbands shall not come to us reeking with carnage for caresses and applause. Our sons shall not be taken from us to unlearn all that we have been able to teach them of charity, mercy, and patience. We, women of one country, will be too tender of those of another country to allow our sons to be trained to injure theirs. From the bosom of the devastated earth, a deep voice goes up with our own. It says, disarm, disarm. The sword of murder is not the balance of justice. Blood does not wipe out dishonor, nor violence vindicate possession. As men have often forsaken the plow and the anvil at the summons of war, let women now leave all that may be left of home for a great and earnest day of council. Let them meet first as women to bewail and commemorate the dead. Let them then solemnly take counsel with each other as to the means whereby the great human family can live in peace, each bearing after his own kind the sacred impress, not of Caesar, but of God. In the name of womanhood and of humanity, I earnestly ask that a General Congress of Women, without limit of nationality, may be appointed and held at some place deemed most convenient, and at the earliest period consistent with its objects, to promote the alliance of the different nationalities, the amicable settlement of international questions, and a great and general interest of peace. Thus ends the reading of the original proclamation of Mother's Day. You wish you wrote that, Hallmark. Isn't that cool? I didn't know for many years that that was the original meaning in the original proclamation of Mother's Day, the call for peace. I think it is more current than we would like to believe to say those words. So, in the spirit of just saying the thing like Julia, let's talk a little bit today about how our faith in a loving, peaceful, nurturing, mothering God can form how we think about motherhood. No matter what complicated feelings might come from our families of origin, I believe that it's never too late to consider thinking new thoughts. Reverend Ray teaches y'all that every week. So to that end, obviously, we gotta talk about cowbirds. Obviously. Do you know about cowbirds? Did we get that picture, Neil? Or did we not? Did we not? It's up there? Oh, there it is. There it is. Yay. Do you know about cowbirds? Okay, I'm mystified that I got to be a half century old without knowing about cowbirds. Here's how I learned. One of my friends, Reverend Kelly, that is really her name, two Kellys, posted this picture of a robin's nest that was in her front yard, in which there are 3 perfect, sweet little blue robin's eggs, as one might suspect and be delighted to find. And then this one just slightly larger egg, ivory with speckled light brown, all lying together right there in a neat little robin's nest. The speckled egg, it turns out, is the egg of a cowbird. Girl, let me tell you about these messy, trifling cowbird moms. They're called brood parasites. And what that means is that they do not nest and care for their eggs the way that most other birds do. What they do instead is they watch other species of birds from the trees. And when they see that, for example, this mother robin, although it's not only robins, has laid a clutch of eggs, they will watch that nest until the parent robins have left for a little while. And then the cowbird mom will quickly and stealthily swoop in, lay one egg right there with the robin eggs, and fly back out into the trees, hoping that the host family will come back and just never notice. What's one more, big-mouthed hungry kid, right? This just cracks me up. Nature is astonishing and delightful sometimes, right? And also, of course, nature is astonishing and brutal sometimes, because what a precarious way to start a family, right? I had so many questions when I first learned of this. And so I read some stuff by smarter people than me, and I learned that the mother cowbirds do not actually simply just lay the egg and abandon it. No, they monitor the progress of the egg and the young hatchling if it's lucky enough to survive. If she finds, for example, that her egg has been removed by the host species, which sometimes happens, she will often retaliate by destroying all of the host's eggs. This ostensibly will slow the spread of anti-cowbird behavior by preventing those birds from reproducing, as well as giving her another chance to add another egg if the host renests. Research tells us that the mother cowbird remains in the neighborhood well after the young have hatched, and that baby cowbirds as young as 6 days old respond to the characteristic rattle call of their mother. Baby cowbirds have to avoid imprinting on their foster parents, whatever species they may be, and the rattle call of the birth mom functions as a kind of instinctive password that helps cowbirds recognize their own species after they fledge. So that mostly answered the big questions for me of how in the world cowbird culture is passed on if literally every single cowbird is raised by an adoptive family of a different species. Sure, I guess some things are just instinctual in ways that humans can't fully understand, but I also just love knowing that these mama cowbirds are still there. They're just still there hanging around in the trees, yelling at their kids once in a while from the trees, "Hey, big weird-looking robin, spoiler alert, you're not a robin, you're a cowbird." Cowbird moms, of course, make me think about Moses. Yeah, that Moses from the Hebrew Bible. If we grew up in a synagogue or church, we most likely know that story about Moses and his mother, Yocheved. Now, I always heard it pronounced Jochebed. Anybody else? I don't think I ever encountered any preacher in my United Pentecostal youth who had studied Hebrew language, and neither have I. So I'm still getting used to pronouncing it correctly myself. Anywho, Moses' mom, Yocheved, under great duress because the newborn children of her people were the victims of ongoing genocide, decided to take her chances with cowbird behavior. This is a familiar part of the story where Yocheved hides baby Moses in a basket in the bulrushes in the Nile River near the bathing area of the princess of Egypt. And it is then that Moses' big sister Miriam was tasked with acting as the mother cowbird. Perhaps birth mom Yocheved was not physically able to take on the task. Perhaps she simply had to go home and tend to her 3-year-old middle child, Aaron. We don't know for sure, but what we do know is that she sent big sister Miriam to watch after her baby brother from a stand of bulrushes. And when the Pharaoh's daughter, the king's daughter, the princess of Egypt, having come to the river to bathe, heard the tiny baby's cry, she did exactly what Yocheved had hoped she would do, which is give in to her mothering instincts to protect any endangered child. And she immediately decided that she would take this abandoned, helpless baby as her own. And it was at that point that big sis Miriam just conveniently emerged from the bulrushes and said, "Excuse me, Your Royal Highness, if you happen to need a nanny for that baby, I'm available." And that is a strange story of how Yocheved's kids got to grow up together in the royal palace. That's how Miriam became a cowbird mom, reminding Moses while he was being raised as an Egyptian prince that, hey, big awkward Robin, you're different because you're actually a cowbird, or an Israelite in this case. And that is in that one little story of cowbirds, or in that one little story of Moses in the bulrushes, we come across so many loving ways of mothering a child into the fullness of who they are. Some birth moms, like Yocheved, leave their babies at what they pray are safe havens and just hope for the best, because it is the best they can do. Some birth moms, like cowbirds, carefully research and vet the prospective adoptive families and know as much about who they are entrusting with their precious child as possible before letting go. Some aunties and uncles and gunkles, friends of all genders and sisters like Miriam, rise to the occasion of mothering by saying, "I will always be here to help this little fledgling grow and remember who they really are." Some mothers, sisters, aunties, and gunkles, and friends of all genders, like the cowbirds, will just stay hidden behind some nearby branches, behind the scenes, to whisper or yell out the empowering truth of who we really are, just as we're about to forget our native cowbird call and try to sing like a robin. And some mothers, like the robins, and like Egyptian princesses, will take in a baby and raise it and love it as her own, because a mother's love is far too powerful to be restricted by an incidental thing like DNA bonds. And every one of these examples, and countless more, all I see is a natural expression of a mother hen kind of a God, whose plan for us was always to live a life abundant in the love of family, blood or chosen, in all our diverse life experiences and circumstances. Now, there are tragedies in both of these stories, of course. There are the rejected cowbird eggs tossed away by the robins, the robin eggs destroyed in retaliation by the distraught cowbirds. In Yocheved's case, there was an intentional genocide of Jewish children and the unfathomable grief of thousands of mothers. And there runs a thread through both stories of the commonality of a mother's love, the love of mothers who have kept bird culture and Jewish culture alive and thriving and vibrant generation after generation against all odds. Now, it's just an imperfect analogy. I do hope I can make it clear that I'm not actually equating the heartbreaking decisions of mothers oppressed by racist systems to instinctual bird behavior. But today, as we celebrate mothers and our ultimate Mother Earth and all of her children, it seems like the very different stories have a few similarities worth mentioning, at least. It was near this time, only a few years ago, when news broke from right here in our beloved Georgia, downstate in Ocilla, about a doctor who was performing brutal surgeries on immigrant detainee women and other womb-having people to make them unable to biologically mother again. Any of you remember that story? I had the privilege to stand outside that detention center with dozens of other clergy members with bullhorns and loud drums, singing songs of Cowbird solidarity, hoping these precious folks could hear us from inside the walls as we reminded them that they were precious in God's sight and in our sight. You are not foreign, you are not forgotten, you are one of us. Our all-American reality is indelibly marked within our past and our present with the tragic, brutal stories of the death of mothers' dreams due to things like anti-Semitism, Palestinian genocide, the devaluing of Black and brown children, queer and disabled children, and all immigrant and refugee dreamers. Also in our state, the brilliant political career of our own Congresswoman Lucy McBath was born from her unfathomable grief as a mother whose Black son was murdered in an act of gun violence. She has turned her maternal sorrow into a sacred mission to protect the children of other mothers by whatever means possible. See, mothering, it's messy work. It's rarely about cards and flowers, which is why it's cool to go all out for Mother's Day if you want to. It really is. But mothering is more often a messy, fearful, brutal affair. We are, after all born immediately right into pain, blood, screams, and instinctual primal strength of our womb parent to do whatever it takes to get us safely into the world. And sometimes the people who bear us in this way end up also mothering us. And sometimes we are given over to the care of someone else who will do the mothering, fathering, parenting. Sometimes mothering goes wrong. Tragically wrong. Not everyone's great at it. Some people are just downright terrible at it. Here's what Anne Lamott had to say about mothering, and this day especially. Mother's Day celebrates a huge lie about the value of women. That mothers are superior beings, that they have done more with their lives and chosen a more difficult path. Ha! Every woman's path is difficult, and many mothers are as equipped to raise children as wire monkey mothers. I say that without judgment. It's true. An unhealthy mother's love is withering. The illusion that mothers are automatically more fulfilled and complete. Ha! I hate the way the holiday makes non-mothers and the daughters of dead mothers and the mothers of dead or lost children feel the deepest kind of grief and failure. The non-mothers must sit in their churches, temples, mosques, and recovery rooms and pretend to feel good about the day while they are excluded from a holiday that benefits no one but Hallmark and See's. See's is a candy company. I had to look that up. There is no refuge, not at the horse races, movies, malls, museums. Even the turn off your cell phone announcer is going to open the day by saying, Happy Mother's Day. But my main gripe with Mother's Day, Lamott goes on, is that it feels incomplete and imprecise. The main thing that ever helped mothers was other people mothering them, including aunties and brothers, a chain of mothering that keeps the whole shebang afloat. You want to give me chocolate and flowers? Great. I love them both. I just don't want them out of guilt, and I don't want them if you're not going to give them to all the people who help mother children. But if you are going to include everyone, then make mine something like M&Ms and maybe flowers you picked yourself, even from my own garden, the cut stems wrapped in a wet paper towel and then tinfoil and a wax paper bag from my own kitchen drawer. I don't want something special. I want something beautifully plain, like everything else. It can fill me only if it is ordinary and available to all. Beautifully plain, ordinary, and available to all. Those little eggs y'all got earlier, if you want to hold yours while we're praying, it probably won't infuse it with any kind of tangible woo-woo, but maybe it will, because what do I know? But I hope that if it feels meaningful to you, you might keep it around as a reminder of the things that we're going to pray today in a closing prayer of gratitude. So let's pray together if you're into that sort of thing. Dear loving Mother God, who told us through the writers in the Christian Gospels that you have always just wanted nothing more than to gather us up in your arms like a hen gathers up her chicks under her wings. Thank you for having the awesome good sense to invent mothers and mothering. That was a pretty good idea. Thank you for your example of Mary's son, Jesus, as he hung in crucifixion and took the time to say to his best friends as he gestured toward his precious, unbearably distraught, grieving mama, this is your mom now. Act like it. Treat her right. Thank you for our beloved Gaia, our Mother Earth, without which we cannot be. Help us to act like it and treat her right. Thank you for making those weird, ridiculous, hot mess cowbirds, for all they can teach us if we pay attention. Thank you for the writer who had the good sense to record the timeless story of Moses and all the women who mothered him into a life of brave, messy, stutter steps toward great leadership. Thank you for the lives of immigrant mothers who cross oceans and deserts and fascist regimes for the chance to give their children a better life. Thank you for the strength of Black mothers who still pray every morning that their babies will come home safe at the end of the day. Thank you for the people of all genders who mother the motherless into surviving and thriving. Thank you for every beloved person in this room today, all of us mothered by someone, or more likely many someones. Thank you for everyone here who is mothering somebody. Maybe they know that they are mothering people into the fullness of themselves, but maybe they don't even know it yet because they don't fit into the traditional definition of mother. May we know today and every day that we are loved by a deep, divine mother love that never changes, never ceases, and will never let us go, no matter what. In the holy presence, in the name of Shekinah, the feminine face of God, we pray. Ashe and amen.